am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's an entrepreneur and, of course, best-selling author, no other than Mr. Joe Rockey.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. This is awesome.
Yes, and welcome to Book 101, Mr. Joe. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Joe Rockey, obviously. I have I'm been releasing the book here, Casino Sales Master, and the reason for that is I am one of these people that wants to see results and just always kinds of assumes that it's going to work out. And what this story is, and it is a true story, is I was 25 in my first business. I was purchasing properties, renovating them, and reselling them. And one of the things when you're selling a house is that it takes quite a bit of time between getting a buyer and actually getting paid. And my friends had all just said, "Hey, let's go to Vegas." They all had normal jobs. They were getting paid weekly and with regular income. And I was only going to get paid when this house got done. And at the time, I was like, yeah, no problem. I'm definitely going to be able to do this. Well, fast forward 6 months, the house hadn't sold yet. I only had 500 bucks in my pocket. And this is how I built a system to win in the most one-sided sales environment on the planet, which is a casino's floor in the best casinos in the world in Las Vegas. And not only how did I have the casino pay for me to be there, but to do it in a repeatable way that not only is a better way of selling and is a system of selling, but it's applicable to every element of your life, whether it be my high school daughter doesn't want to talk to me anymore and she wants to lock herself in the room, or it being I have no idea how to get recognized in this current world, or my boss is overlooking me for a promotion. All of those skill sets that you need to get those accomplishments, I discuss in this book in a way that is completely interactive. It is not dry. And I believe it's a very compelling story that will help a lot of people truly, truly elevate their lives. And that's why the book is called Casino Sales Master, Winning Strategies to Beat the Odds in Sales and Life. And I think the and life is the most important part of it. So it's it's a fantastic book. I'm so excited to be there. And not to mention, on top of that, I've been in sales for 15 years and all this stuff I've been teaching to my clients at Elite Business Conversations. So it's absolutely fantastic. That's a real quick about me and what got me here talking to you.
That interesting, Mr. Joe. So, what age did you realize that you are good in writing?
I'm not good in writing. Let's start with that. I realized I wasn't. So I give speeches. I give talks on stages and whatnot, and I'm always talking. And I am not one of these people who are very good sitting in front of a computer and typing. So I unfortunately had arm surgery where I was driving to physical therapy a lot. And literally what I did was I started dictating this book to just the app in your phone for recording it. And then I eventually translated it using a transcription service. And what I found was it sounded like a really good speech, but it was a horrible book to read. And I found myself a great publisher in Vince, and we just went through this probably about 9 different times in something that was way more time consuming, way humbling, to turn it from something that it would be okay if I heard it, if I was sitting in a room with you, to something now, this is actually something I want to read. This is enjoyable, while at the same time, never watering down the really rich and true content that will make a difference in your world. And not to mention, explicitly tell you how to beat the casinos.
Definitely. So, who inspired you to write this book?
It was being a guest on Vince's podcast. He told me, dude, you got to write this book. And that's how it came to pass. And, I got to tell you, I was so naive in the process. I was thinking I'm going to spit out a transcript. I've been on stage forever. This is going to be nothing. And then going through it, how night and day and naive I was. Just the process of going through and making yourself sound intelligent in writing is just such a monumental challenge. And I give all the credit in the world to every person who has, even the way I digest books as a consumer is I do it through audiobooks. I listen to everything. So to go and realize that the audiobooks that I love so much are much more than a dictated speech was incredibly humbling. So it's such a fun process, but the long story short is what got me to answer this was being on the publisher's podcast doing promotion for one of my upcoming speeches. Actually, it was ironic how the entire circle spun.
Yes. Can you describe the research process behind your work?
Well, I mean, my research process in terms of the sales system itself is from 15 years of direct experience doing it and seeing it work time and time again. So it's firsthand experience in that regards. In terms of the elements that really core through this book, which is how to make better human connections and human relations, it's a skill set we're all innately born with being people. So, in terms of the research going into it, it is a lot of just human observations, but learning from a lot of great psychologist books throughout the past and great psychologists that have given reports as far as things from diversified as neuro linguistic pathways to mindfulness to Freud and all kinds of other great psychologists that lead into how does the mind actually work and how can I make a better connection and ultimately how can I make a win-win scenario in an environment that is basically guaranteed to never let that happen, which is the casino floor. And I keep bringing up the casino floor because it's like winning a video game on extreme hard mode. I mean, it is something that's not supposed to happen. And not only did it, I built a system that I've repeated time and time again, and it works in every facet of life.
What challenges did you face while writing the book Casino Sales Master?
So I think the biggest challenge I had was coming from the mindset of giving dictation to actually turning it into text. And that's why I'm really glad that I had professionals around me to help me with that because it's such a different skill communicating in every different forum. And I think that so many of us take that for granted since there's about 6 different forums in our phones. Most of us have some form of Facebook, a version of TikTok, emails, and text and calling all on the phone. Well, all 5 of those mediums, we use different skills to communicate. And it was amazing to me that just because I was good, if not elite, in one of them, how deficient I was in another. And it really, that was the challenge, was getting myself and my writing style to to a spot where it was equal to communicating verbally.
Yes. So, who are your literary influences?
So the 2 books that I think influenced me the most in the structure in which they were is Extreme Ownership by Yako and The 4 Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. And the reason those 2 books were kind of my models is because both of them taught you great and immense lessons about how you can impact your life, but they did it with such compelling narrative that it didn't feel like I was being taught. Like I was learning stuff, but really in Extreme Ownership, I wanted to know what the Navy SEALs did in Iraq because no one's ever really told that well. And here's a guy who was in there firsthand telling me what they did. That's what got me into the book. And in the case of the 4 Hour Work Week, all of the great things that Ferris is able to do in his life as a result of creating this great business structure was very compelling to me. And in a lot of ways, it has molded the way that I teach other people on how to build structures for their business. So, given the fact that those 2 books took such great and knowledgeable content and told it to you in a way where it wasn't a dry textbook. Those were the two that drove me. And I really do think that that comes across in Casino Salesmaster. Yes, my narrative's not going to war or going to China and winning a kickboxing tournament. Mine is going to the hardest battlefield on earth, economically speaking, and coming out super victoriously.
Wow, interesting, Mr. Joe. So, how do you deal with the writer's block?
So when I had the block come upon me, I really just kind of dove into why did when I got to a stopping point, I guess. So there's obviously a period in the book when I had to decide which casino game was I going to go to. And when I got to a various block in the writing process of trying to articulate it or something like that, I simply just went to the next step in the process because it's a system. So at step one, I was getting issue writing with, I would just start doing step two and step three, and then it would just come to me. It's like the reason this is sounding weird is because you didn't articulate it right in the first step. So then I would just be able to go back and that block and that stumbling position that was being hard to jump through had already answered itself because I had already made the river. I just now needed to make, oh, we need to do a little bend here to make it all work. So really the way I got through the writer's block was as soon as I got to a spot, I just skipped it and just continued. And then naturally it filled itself back in as I went through the editing and rereading process.
How do you feel your personal experiences have shaped your writing?
I mean, directly. I mean, it's a first person story and account of what happened. So it's all true. It's all real. So I think that the hardest part actually was because I specifically wanted to write this about the first time I did it. The hardest part was getting my mind right of was that the first time I did that or was that the fourth? Like, because I all basically did them in Vegas, right? So there's only so
Yes.
many casinos, and it was like no, that one isn't the casino we did it in. So I'm thinking about a different time. Getting that straight was really the only challenging part. But again, I love recalling the count of it, and it's so important. And I am going out of the way just to not make this sound fraudulent or anything. I'm not telling the casino I did this at because I love going to that casino, and I don't want to throw myself under the bus.
Certainly. So, what is your daily writing routine like?
So the writing routine essentially was this. Whenever I was dictating it, I would once a week dictate in two 30-minute sections. And in the in between time, it would just be thinking about and preparing what is the order of the content and how do I want to say this. So whenever I got behind the microphone and started articulating it, it was already pre-planned, fairly coherent, and very structured. Now that's not to say that I didn't stumble and like say the wrong word and have to go back and fix it or something like that. I mean, no one who's ever done a speech writing has ever done that. I mean, you're going to have a mistake at some point, especially across an 8-hour dictation. But because I would spend essentially a week in between the two 30-minute sessions, I was really able to plan, figure out this is the specific chapter that I want to discuss. These are the most important things that I want to get across in terms of the rich content. And then it was, well, how do we say this? And like I said, once I got time doing the dictation, it came out very smooth and natural for those two sessions. And then one of the challenges came back to be is how do we make them all flow correctly? Because when I got into, for instance, the section on which game to choose, it was told with a little bit of a different tone than when I got into how this is applicable to the rest of your life in a marketing campaign, for instance. Those are two distinct different chapters. And using the process after the fact of turning into text is really how we solve that.
Very well said, Mr. Joe. But before we go on, I want to shout out to these countries according to my ranking tops. in the last 30 days. In Zambia, I got number 7 on the Apple chart. Thank you, Zambia. Qatar at number 29, Oman at number 33, Slovenia number 45, Pakistan at number 48, Nigeria at number 69, United Republic of Tanzania 25, Jordan at 63, Canada number 86, and Cambodia at 115, Zimbabwe at 130, Egypt at 136, Indonesia at 158, South Africa at 182, Norway at 183, and last but not the least, Belgium at 234. Thank you for supporting this podcast, because this podcast is created to empower writers all over the world like Joe Rockey. What is the best highlight of Casino Master?
So the best takeaway I can tell for anyone who's out there who wants to read this is that it can be done with any single person on this planet, regardless of your current life status, regardless of whatever barrier you think you have in front of you, you can make the world a better place. And at this book's core, it's about how to do that and to how be part of the solution. I firmly believe that sales will heal the world, and that becoming better at sales, whether you're actually selling a product for your profession or you're doing it as a little 3-year-old who wants to get more cookies, or as a parent who wants to reconnect with their child, or as an employee who's getting overlooked by his boss, no matter where you're at, that is a sale to get the outcome to make the world a better place. And I firmly believe that whichever barrier or social problem is most prevalent to you, that learning how to do the sales and the system that is taught here in Casino Sales Master will help you to overcome the problem you are facing. And yes, your problem might have nothing to do with only having $500 and being in Sin City. It might have to do with something that's much more real to you, and it probably will. And the answer is Casino Sales Master will teach you how to overcome that for winning strategies to beat the odds in sales, and most importantly, in your life.
Yes. So, Mr. Joe, how do you handle criticism, both constructive and negative?
Well, one of the great things of my upbringing is that I have a little brother. And then I went to an all guys school. And let me tell you this, in terms of criticism, if I didn't learn how to handle it, I would have imploded a long time ago. So I think to answer your question correctly, the first thing that I do is I differentiate between is it valid or is it not? Because a very long time ago, I accepted the fact there's never going to be a moment in time when everyone loves me, nor is there going to be a moment in time when everyone hates me. So, therefore, let's differentiate the two groups of people to figure out if what they're telling me is valid. The second point after we get is the person someone I should care about is do they actually know what they're talking about? Because I do a lot in my life that people have opinions upon how things should be done, but they have no idea what they're talking about. And diving into that is a really easy way of just filtering out and dismissing essentially irrelevant criticism. And what I have found is when I don't have that washing away method is when you get those thorns that really just dig into you and they stay with you. And then you go back and look at it and be like, that was stupid. Like, he had no idea what he was talking about. Why did I even let that become a part of my mind? Like, what are we doing here? So that was one of the things that I learned along the way as far as how to deal with the negative criticism was first, is it even valid? Now, if I get negative valid criticism, I will look into it and I'll do essentially a thought experiment with it, which is one of the things I cover in the book, which is how to do a successful thought experiment. Is this actually something that would work if I implement it? Looking at all of the variables and all of the motivations at hand. If I implement this criticism, what will change? And is that change what I actually want? And that's really how I use it. So if it's from a valid source, I will deeply contemplate it, and not saying I'll always implement it, but if it's actually a good idea and something I want to do, I'll adopt it. And that's how I go from there. And that's really how I deal with the negative criticism. Then in terms of the positive criticism, I just kind of take it, put it in the bank, and next time there's a problem down the road, I just go back to that memory.
Yes. So, do you have any advice for aspiring writers out there?
I think the first point is have a very clear idea of what it is that you want to accomplish. And in this case, I wanted to make the world a better place. I mean, that's my overall, that's the value I want to go by with everything. I want to make a difference and make the world a better place. And if you have a spot where it says, I know I want to get this message across, that is what needs to guide everything you're doing, whether it be writing, your life, or what have you. I want to accomplish this. And I believe the more focused you can get on that, the next step then becomes, how do I do it? Because I'm an example of an unconventional writer. I dictated it. Most people are going to either do some form of typing or writing it on hand. And I can tell you, you don't need to be in one of those two boxes. I'm the kind of person that I would literally have never been able to sit down for the amount of time it would took to write the first draft in front of a computer. So we live in a world with so many technological advantages that if you have your mission set, do a simple search about how to make it happen and then do it. But it all starts with having a message that you are passionate about, that you want to bring to the world. And in my case, that's that salespeople will heal the world, and we can make the world a better place.
Very well said, Mr. Joe. So, how has the publishing process been for you?
It's been very interesting. There's been a lot of things about the industry as a whole as publishing that I didn't know about as an outsider, and I thought they were fascinating to learn. The entire buildup of releasing the book, selling it, and marketing it, I think is absolutely fascinating. And me being me, I push back on it a little bit because in most books, you never get a volume purchase package or something like that, or a discount for buying a lot. And that's exactly what I did because, as I mentioned before, I speak on stages and at companies around the world. And one of the things that we're doing with this book is if you are a volume purchaser, a bulk purchaser, we're arranging that I will come and speak to your company. It's just a question of whether it'll be digitally or in person, depending upon the units sold and whatnot. But it's a different angle on selling books that has never really been tried, at least from my searching on Google. And I always wanted to try something new. And that's one of the things that I loved about this was that it's so open in terms of how can you get people to pay attention and to listen to you? And there's so many different pathways in our current world. And it's not the 1950s anymore. It's not just have the New York Times like you. It's 500 different ways to communicate with someone all over the world. And congratulations on all your success in all those different countries. I'd have no way of communicating with people in Indonesia if this was 1950, but now I do. And this is one of the things that I love about the time that we live in and the opportunity that we have. So I don't know if I missed your question or not, but I just love the process of learning about this industry and the openness of how we can communicate and get our books to really anywhere on this planet.
Definitely. So, what is the most rewarding aspect of being an author?
Well, I love seeing people that have taken the message and have made it part of their lives. Where the end product is, yes, I've given this speech, it originally started as a speech at casinos before, and the next morning seen guys come back with money literally in their hands, waving it around, and being like, "Dude, it worked! Totally worked! It was awesome!"
Yes.
Rewarding. But the bigger thing is the fact that I know that from listening to this, people's families are better. I now am going to have a better chance to talk to my mom, who I haven't talked to since dad died. I'm now going to be able to have a better relationship with my employees so they all don't think I hate them all the time. And just little relationships that we all have in our lives. And, we all have the personal version that's different than that. But knowing that those relationships are going to become less hostile and more loving, that to me is the reward of this book. And again, that's transcending being a salesperson, being a gambler, to being universally of being human.
Indeed, Mr. Joe. So, how do you feel about the current state of publishing industry?
To me, I this is my first one, so I'm an outsider coming into. I don't have a basis of what it was like before, but I love that it's wide open and fun in this capacity. In that, you know, what other forum do we have where we can communicate with people on every continent, and having something that can be materially in your hands as far as a book, and now being able to tell you about it. I just love that element of it, that there's someone out there listening to our conversation in a place of the world that I never thought would ever care about what I had to say. And not only are they listening, but they're going to adopt some of these teachings and make their lives better. And that I'm able to help people that I have never met and to make their lives better. Dude, that's just rewarding beyond measure. Like I get goosebumps just thinking about that here. Like I'm perking up. There's just something about it, knowing that this is going to help people in so many different ways. And I mean, yeah, obviously I'm selling a book. I'm going to get income from it. But I really do believe that the real value is the reader who's going to enjoy this book, and then all of the relationships that they share, because there's a multiplier effect that comes from having better relationships that goes way beyond winning money in Las Vegas or winning money in your local casino, to actually making a difference in this world. And like I said, that is the true mission and goal of this book, is to make the world a better place, because sales will heal the world.
Certainly, Mr. Joe. So, tell us, being the founder of the Elite Business Conversations TV.
Yeah, so Elite Business Conversations, the TV show, is going to be coming out in February of 2024. We're in the process of filming the first season. It's amazing. I get to sit down with thought leaders and great business owners from all over the world and talk about what they're doing to make a difference. Again, if you haven't gathered this already from listening, I am all about making a difference, with my core belief that sales will heal the world. And I talk to people about what they're doing in their space to make a difference. Like, for instance, we had a garment creator in San Francisco who figured out that there's a way to merge AI app technology and what you should be wearing outside, so that you get healthier and you're less likely to get sick, regardless of what you're doing. So even if it's like extreme conditions, like being on the side of a mountain and skiing, or doing underwater scuba with all this pressure around you, how should you figure out what kind of gear you should wear? And then she also has a company that provides top notch gear. But it was one of those things, like, it's an area of life that I had never even thought of. Or when you have a company that's trying to make a difference, how do you figure out how to keep your company growing in post-sale environments? Those are some of my favorite interviews that we've done so far. So there's just so much great knowledge out there that we share with Elite Business Conversations, the TV show. It's going to be internationally syndicated across 43 different countries and 55 million households. So a lot of the countries that you overlap, we will be in there as well. And then in terms of in American streaming, it also will be on Amazon and Roku. So it will be all over the place, again, starting in February of 2024. And it's a fantastic opportunity to extend the reach and, again, make a difference in the world.
Yes, congratulations, Mr. Joe. And can you come back and be my guest on my movie 101 and let's talk about your show?
Absolutely, absolutely, we can do that.
Definitely. So, Mr. Joe, you are also a podcast host of Father and Joe. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so Father and Joe was my first foray into the social meeting publishing space. I started that in 2017, and the entire goal behind Father and Joe from that first episode through now is to make us have better relationships in three capacities. First, improving the relationship that we have with ourselves. Second, the relationship that we have with those around us. And then third, all underneath the umbrella of the relationship that we have with God. And that is where, really anyone can come and get great information and knowledge about that. And we do keep it to relevance, relevant conversations. Listeners give us a lot of different ideas, but some of the biggest ones were, you know, there's this guy over in Russia who just decided to start a war for no reason. How should we feel about that? And what should we do about it? It's a very real question. um, and then we've also had conversations such as, I can intellectually grasp the concept of God. Like I got him in my head, but I don't feel him in my heart. And I don't understand these people that run around and say that they do. Like, what's up with that? And then these are like we've done over 300 episodes now. We've covered a lot of different topics, but that's just to give a little bit of the flavor of what it is. And again, it's always on the umbrella of strengthening your relationships, which ultimately gives you a multiplier effect across your life that you have no idea how much better your life becomes when you just practice building relationship muscles. It's stronger than any other thing in our human beings than we can ever have. It's remarkable. It's remarkably how much it makes a difference. It's almost like the untold secret of the modern society. Like figuring out how to make better relationships is a lot different than just using your phone and tweeting someone. Like actually, how do I genuinely connect with someone is massively important. And that really, more than any of my other media stuff, is what bled into Casino Salesmaster, because Casino Salesmaster's core is about making better human connections, especially in the most desolate place on the planet, which is a Las Vegas casino floor. Not a great place for making human connections. And how can you bring that spark of humanity into a situation and make yourself stand out, and more importantly, do it effectively? It's a phenomenal feat.
Yes, indeed, and congratulations, Father and Joe's belong to 5% popular show globally. And can you please invite our listeners to buy your upcoming book?
Yeah, Casino Sales Master: Winning Strategies for Beating the Odds in Sales and Life. So anyone go on Amazon and buy the book. But if you come and reach out to me here on LinkedIn, again, I'm just Joe Rockey Jr. If you reach out to me there and say that you listen to us here on Book 101 and you just send me that direct message, I'll send you a discount code. Because one thing about the book is it's so fantastic and meaningful in its information. It's more expensive than your run of the mill book. It's just a fact. And if you reach out to me, tell me you heard me here, we'll be able to figure out a way to get that price down for you and be able to make it work. And again, you can find me on LinkedIn at Joe Rockey, just the slash Joe Rockey. So I'm right there. I look forward to talking to you guys there about the book. And if you're interested in doing a bulk sale and having me come to either yourself virtually or in person with your team, I'm more than open to do that. And again, that conversation could start either through LinkedIn at Joe Rockey, or you can come to the direct website at Elite Business Conversations, where we do our consulting practices.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Joe Rocky Jr. So, Casino Sales Master, please do support him because if you support him, more books to come. Mr. Joe, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I hope that people pick up this book and really have it make a difference in your lives, because it will make a difference and salespeople will heal the world.
how would you heal the world by selling?
Yeah, I mean, it basically goes like this. So if I'm bringing a product that I know is going to help you, I want to get it to as many people as possible. It's exactly what I'm doing with this book. I know it's going to help you, and I want to get it to you. And likewise, as the consumer, you're obviously trading a resource in return, money, but you're doing that so that then I can go do this again and then help the next person and the next person. And because I'm interested in helping everyone, none of these biases come into play. There is no dividing force because I want to help you. I want to help you as an individual, and I want to help every individual. And that's ultimately when sales are done correctly, what is happening. We're building a connection between you and I so that we can help each other. And that ultimately can only be done through a way where there's incentivization, which is part of the underlying fact of sales. And where this is so different is from what I call the 1960s sales method of trying to pressure someone, forcing you to do something that I want so I get something out of it. And that mentality of selling, of living, has really been a cancer on this planet. And it's been here since the dawn of time. It's part of human nature. And when I say sales will heal the world, it's when you do it correctly. I want to make a connection with you because I want to help you. And yes, by making this connection, you're going to help me as well. And that's good. Both of us are getting a win win out of this scenario. And I want to help as many people as possible. That's how sales will heal the world. And that is my passion of making a difference and what I really think that this book will accomplish.
Very well said, Mr. Joe. So, Casino Sales Master on Amazon when or any leading online bookstores?
Yep, it should be in all of them here in November, the first Tuesday of November, right in time for the Christmas and holiday rush.
Are they available for pre-order?
The pre-order begins next week.
Okay, people, let's support Mr. Joe for the new book, Casino Sales Master. It's something else that healed the world.
That's right.
Bodycom people, see you soon.